Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Let the filibustering begin.
Welcome to Nerd Party.
Hello and welcome to Filibuster here on the Nerd Party, the podcast network that provides you with your balanced diet of nerdy needs. Today it's one small step for Filibuster, one giant leap for the Nerd Party as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Apollo moon landing as we discuss Moon with a live orchestra score before coming back down to Earth with the hottest news to come out of San Diego Comic-Con, or as Ron Burgundy would call it, a whale's vagina Comic-Con. I'm your host, Alice King, and just like the Apollo 11 mission, one man can't do it alone, so joining me in the Filibuster Lunar Module are the Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins to my Neil Armstrong. It's Lee Hutchison and Kim Morrison. How are you?
Yeah, I'm curious which one's going to be the second one to land on the moon and which one never landed on the moon at all.
I know, well, Michael Collins is like one of those pub quiz questions, which until I watched the Apollo 11 documentary, I couldn't for the life of me remember the name of the third person who went up in the mission, so yeah. I'm not passing judgment on who's who. So,
nice.
This past week was not only the 50th anniversary of the moon landings, but also the 10th anniversary of Duncan Jones's Moon, one of our favourite films here on Filibuster, and also the film that Lee first got me on to talk about on episode 69, I think it was, and he never got rid of me. Lee, how's that been for you?
Yeah, it's been really cool. I was just thinking that the other day where it was like, you know, that was what brought us together for this podcast. I'm sure I mentioned this to you before, there was sort of a period of time where it was just like I had the show all to myself. I was like, what am I going to do? And I would get people on. Like, I would release the show like once every 2 weeks. I would get different people on to discuss different subjects and books or whatever they were wanting to sell. And then I thought, oh, Dallas, he still seems like a cool guy. I've crossed paths with him a few times. Maybe I could get him on to talk about his book all about New York film locations. And obviously we first went with sort of the Duncan Jones double bill. And like 110 episodes on, we have yet to actually ever discuss your book in any sort of full feature-length form. So the original idea I had for me and you doing an episode together has never even happened. You think like in all that time we would have discussed it at least once properly.
Yeah, there's still plenty of episodes to go. I'm sure we'll get around to it at some point. So this weekend, actually, Lee and I were both down at the Barbican Centre in London for a screening of the film with a live orchestra performance of Clint Mansell's score. So Lee, I'm going to come to you. What were your thoughts and how did this one rank for you as a fan of these particular live score events?
Yeah, I've gone to quite a few over sort of the past decades, from things like Interstellar to recently Wallace and Gromit and The Wrong Trousers. So I'm quite prone to checking out these events. So it was a real treat. I remember as soon as this got announced, I think me and you messaged each other and went, we've got to get tickets to this event. And I remembered at the time I was in Waverley train station. I was like, oh my God, I've got to get on this straight away, book the tickets. And it's sort of been something I've been really looking forward to for quite a while. And it didn't disappoint. Clint Mansell is one of my favourite film composers. I was lucky enough to see him a few years ago perform a melody of his music in a concert form. But Moon is one of my favourite films of the past decade. And to see this on a big screen again and with the live orchestra performing that incredibly memorable score was a real treat. And I think we had perfect seats for the location. It was a sellout crowd for a huge venue as well. So it's great sometimes to think, you know, me and you enjoy talking about this film, some other people perhaps online like these films, but to actually discover they've got an audience that are willing to pay £30, give up their Friday night in London to go check this out, it was really great. It was a great way to pay tribute to the 10th anniversary of this film.
I know you just said that there's other people who are probably wanting to talk about it. Kim, have you seen Moon? And if so, what are your thoughts on the film?
I haven't actually seen it, so I don't have any.
That's it. The podcast is now over. Well, we can highly recommend it, I'm sure. Because watching it back, I mean, I sort of watch this film probably every sort of 2 years or something like that. It's one that, if it comes on the telly, I'll watch it, but I also put it on occasionally. And I think this is maybe the first time I've seen it since the downfall of the actor who plays the voice of Gertie. But I'm glad that it didn't really affect my viewing of it when I watched it on Friday. I was able to separate the artist from the performance, and it's still the perfect voice for that particular character, and I think it works perfectly. But Sam Rockwell was still robbed for an Oscar, in my opinion. He should have been nominated and won in a year that I think it was like Sean Penn was sort of nominated for Milk and stuff like that. You know, there was other performances which were nominated which weren't as good as Sam Rockwell's, but you know, it's in the past now. We have to move on. So, Kim, in terms of the moon landings and films set on the moon or around the moon, what's your favourite film set around the sort of the space race?
Well, when I was thinking about my favourite moon-related films, I sort of went a bit to the side of it and picked a werewolf one because I was like, the moon's a pretty heavy character. So I went with one of my favourite films ever, which is Ginger Snaps, which is a werewolf film that came out in 2000, and it's about two sisters, and one of them gets bitten by a werewolf, and then it's her and her sister trying to cure her before the next full moon, where apparently in this universe, if you turn into a werewolf, that's you forever. You're just stuck as a werewolf. So I thought I would I thought I could have tried to pick something like Alien or something, even though they're nowhere near the moon. But I thought, no, I'll go with a werewolf film, because at least the moon is a central character in those films.
That's an excellent way of getting around the question and bringing it back on brand to horror. Well done. So,
Thanks.
Lee,
Thank you.
is Moon your favourite moon-related film, or do you have another one in the bank that you like to watch?
Well, let's take Moon as a given. I'm going to see if I can even go weirder than Kim. I'm going with Wallace and Gromit's in Nick Park's A Grand Day Out, where Wallace and Gromit build a rocket to go to the moon to sample the cheese of it. I don't know about you, Kim, you've got a young girl. Does she believe the moon is made of cheese like I did when I was a little kid?
I mean, she's going through a massive Wallace and Gromit phase at the moment, and she is quite obsessed with it, so I am entirely sure that she does believe that it is made of cheese as well. They have imparted that knowledge onto her.
Yeah, I just love this film, and it was one of the sort of maybe first sci-fi I was maybe exposed to as a little kid, alongside things like Thunderbirds. And I just think it's such a fun, family, and enjoyable film, and just the idea of, yeah, they're going to go to the moon to eat it because they think it's cheese. I think Wallace and Gromit are two of the best British characters of all time, and it's just one of the best 30 minutes of a film you could probably ever watch.
Yeah.
And it's Oscar nominated as well, so there you go. It's
Well, excellent choice. Again, maybe not what I was particularly looking for with the thing. I'm going to stick to the question, and I'm going to go with another Oscar-nominated film, and that was Apollo 13, which for me is one of the best films set in space and around the space race. Ron Howard's dramatization of the failed second mission to the moon, and starring Tom Hanks, Kevin Bacon, and Bill Paxton as the astronauts who have to basically find a way to get back home when their spaceship suffers a mechanical fault. And of course, it's the immortal line, "Houston, we have a problem." And you know, it's that great thing where nowadays, you know, you'd probably have a 3D printer on the spacecraft where you'd be able to print out a duplicate part, but there they've got to basically create how to get a square peg into a round hole using duct tape, socks, and binders and all that sort of thing. It's basically, for me, one of the best films about just how great NASA were at doing what they do. And it's a shame that, you know, seeing all these Apollo 11 documentaries and stuff like that, you know, these people with less computer power than we've got on the laptops that we're recording this podcast on, and they still managed to get to the moon. And it feels like sometimes we're wasting that knowledge and potential these days with with watching cat memes and stuff like that. And who knows, maybe we'll have a second space race and try and get to Mars and stuff like that. So who knows in the future. But, you know, there's films which go to space a lot seem to have an audience, and one of those audiences is the San Diego Comic-Con, and this week was a Comic-Con, and for the last 10-15 years it's become one of the biggest and most important weekends of all things movie, TV, and comic, of course, related, with many studios using it as a platform to announce new content, debut trailers and footage, etc. within the infamous Hall H. Of course, there's so much news that it would take us hours to recap it all, but we've all decided to pick one thing to talk about from San Diego Comic-Con, even though the biggest buzz was generated this week by the nightmare-inducing Cats trailer. So, Kim, I'm going to come to you first. What was the one thing that tickled you pink from Comic-Con?
Well, shockingly, it's horror related. So the final trailer for It Chapter 2 dropped at Comic Con, and so it's it's the film version of a Stephen King book. I'm a massive Stephen King fan, but it was like one of the first horror films because they did a TV miniseries of it in the 90s that I watched when I was a kid. So I'm very excited for any adaptation of it. The first part of it is one of the it's just amazing. It's so scary, and I think it's really hard to sort of get everything you from the book. The book is absolutely humongous. Like trying to turn that into a film would be mad. But I think this version has done a really good job of picking out bits from the book that the miniseries sort of missed. And there's bits. I mean, the first trailer for this film was just it was a whole scene. It's where Beverly goes back to her old house and meets the woman that she thinks lives there, and it turns out it's actually Pennywise. But this one was like a proper trailer. It showed us loads of bits, and there was bits that are really like iconic from the book that were missing from the TV series. So there's like the opening kill that brings back Pennywise 27 years later is this guy called Adrian Mellon. That is an amazing scene in the book, and it looks like you see him like swimming in the sewers and Pennywise is there, and there's just like about 1,000 balloons. There also looked like there was a glimpse of the turtle, which you've ever read the book. It's like Pennywise is part of this evil force and the turtle's the good force, and they're like fighting against each other at the end of the universe, and it all gets a bit weird towards the end, but it looked like they were maybe going to try and tackle that in this film, which would be quite interesting, because in the original miniseries they just sort of made Pennywise this giant spider at the end, and it was a bit of a letdown. So yeah, I'm very, very excited for this. It comes out on the 6th of September, which is not too far away at all, and I cannot wait to see it.
Lee, did you catch the trailer, and what were your thoughts on seeing it?
Yeah, I caught it, I think was it Thursday or something it dropped, just sort of on the eve of Comic-Con. Yeah, I thought it was fine. I think I'm one of those people I'm not really bothered about it being horror.
Yeah.
I will say that I will be there like opening weekend because I love Jessica Chastain and James McAvoy, and I think this is definitely some of the best casting. It's almost like the internet and the casting producers are totally in sync on this one. I think when everyone sort of did those sort of maybe think pieces or blogs, etc., after the first one came out, they went, here are the people that are perfect for the next roles. And I think every blog piece had the same, or sung from the same hymn sheet, and it seems the producers have as well. I think this is definitely going to be one of the best cast films of the year. While the trailer, it certainly plays on the horror tropes, and I'm not too bothered about horror, I'm just excited to see whatever these guys do as a film, as a cast together, and I think it's going to be probably one of the most enjoyable films of the year when it lands. So yeah, count me in as looking forward to it.
I was a bit down on the first It Chapter 1. I thought all the child actors were great, but something didn't really click for me. I think it was maybe Skarsgård's performance as Pennywise, because I probably saw the original It at too young an age, late on BBC One, and for me Tim Curry was Pennywise. I think going into Chapter 2, which in the TV miniseries was the poorer part of the film, when of course it turns out he's a giant spider, and it just, whenever Tim Curry wasn't on screen, it kind of faded away. But I think the adult cast is going to be a lot stronger in this one. And there was all this stuff about this FaceTime app going around the week about, people putting their photos in and digitally aging themselves and stuff. But when you saw the transitions between the young kids and the adult actors, it was incredible to see. I mean, particularly Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things, and then going to Bill Hader. It was just, it's just perfect casting. I mean, that casting director does not need that app. They've done it perfectly, and I'm very excited to see what they do with this. And I think it's going to be, I think Jessica Chastain was quoted as saying that the one particular scene contains more blood than any other horror film in the history of horror. So strong words, and I think they will deliver on this one. I think it could be something very special, and I'm certainly looking forward to it. So Lee, what excited you the most coming out of Comic-Con?
Yeah, for me it was, I sort of spent my Saturday evening coming back on a train watching Designated Survivor from London to Edinburgh, and having to hope and pray that when I was going to be travelling through a certain region of the country that it was going to have really good 4G coverage, because the Star Trek Universe panel was on with big announcements about sort of Star Trek Discovery Season 3, which didn't say too much but teased what was to come. Star Trek Lower Decks, a brand new animated series as well, which focuses on sort of the lower deck crew, the sort of behind the scenes crew members that are kind of getting on with the day job while the bridge crew and the gallant team kind of get on with things. But for me, the most exciting panel was the Star Trek Picard one with Sir Patrick Stewart, and this is my most anticipated film, TV show, whatever, like, of this year. Then I discovered it was now going to be 2020, so it's now been kind of kicked back a year. So Taiki Waititi's as an imaginary Hitler has immediately gone up to number one now by default. So yeah, I'm really excited for Star Trek Picard. I don't get the impression, as I would with most of these things, that I'd be cynical, like, oh, they're just bringing it back for some cash and a buck. Like, Sir Patrick Stewart picks projects because he wants to get involved in them. You know, he doesn't have to do this. He's said goodbye to the character, but it looks like they've got an amazing kind of show and concept here. And what's really got me excited as someone that's been kind of glued to Twitter and Star Trek websites and forums kind of for news was quite a few of the surprises that dropped during this fantastic trailer. If anyone hasn't seen it, get on it. That 7 of 9 is going to be back, and Data is going to be back in some form or another. So I think it's going to be a really exciting kind of period to look forward to for Star Trek. I think when I think back to Star Trek when I was a kid in the 90s, you know, you had a couple of shows on, regular movies. It felt like the peak. And then in the 2000s, you know, Star Trek sort of kind of died away in sort of the early 2000s. You know, Enterprise, it got better but wasn't very popular. Star Trek Nemesis was poor and died a death at the box office. I mean, I was a huge Star Trek fan in the 90s, and even by the sort of the early 2000s, you know, a teenager at high school, I remember telling my friends, like, I was too embarrassed to even say I was going to go see a Star Trek movie at the cinema at one point. And this was coming from a proud fan. I remember saying it to them that weekend. I was like, oh, I'm off to see Elf at the cinema instead, which I did go to see, but I was actually going to go see Star Trek Nemesis that time. And it's great to see Star Trek in the past few years. You know, big props to J.J. Abrams and those at Bad Robot for the work that they've done, for making Star Trek popular again. And, you know, maybe it's just my sort of social media timeline, but it seemed to be one of the real breakouts of sort of Comic-Con. You know, it's never going to compete with Marvel, but it seemed like people that I wouldn't have anticipated being fans of Star Trek were talking about this trailer, excited for it. And I think, you know, when you think of Star Trek iconography, someone like Patrick Stewart is in that top tier. So I think this is going to be something that's exciting for me. It's going to be exciting for fans, and I think it's going to be exciting to see how this appeals to non-fans too.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just want to pull you up on one point. You said that Patrick Stewart picks his own project and doesn't have to do anything, but you do remember that he was the voice of Poop in the Emoji Movie.
I would ask, I'm sure this has been debated, isn't that meant to be ice cream, not poop? I
think he's the poop emoji, isn't it? Kim, what are your thoughts on the emoji, the poop emoji? Is it?
I always thought it was poo, but like
that's. I think it's become poop, but it is ice cream, isn't it? That's meant to be. I'm sure. I don't know.
Another debate for another time, perhaps. Wow. So, I mean, yeah. I saw the trailer, and it does look very cinematic, and I think we did have a previous filibuster where we discussed a sort of old man Picard style story of what we thought it might be, and it does look like it's got elements of that, with this sort of person turning up on his vineyard who's in need of protection, and he sort of gets the whole gang back together and goes on one sort of final mission. So, Kim, did you see the trailer for this? Are you a Star Trek fan? Are you looking forward to it?
I haven't seen the trailer actually yet. I used to watch like The Next Generation when I was younger, but that's kind of my only exposure to it. But I did used to love that. I do remember going to like I was going to say convention, but that's not what I mean. It was like a thing at the City Art Centre in town that was like
a big display of Star Trek.
Yes, I remember going to that as a kid, and yeah, I absolutely loved it. So yeah, I would be really excited to to sort of dip back in again and watch, and it being characters I know as well, considering Next Generation's the only series I have experience of. So no, I'm quite excited to watch this.
I think it's going to be enough time has passed that I think you'll be able to watch this one without really having to have seen all the previous sort of Star Trek Next Generation films and the TV show. I think it'll do a good job of basically hitting the ground running and being able to appeal to all sort of audiences and stuff like that without the knowledge, needing to know the knowledge of the backstory of it. Unlike perhaps the thing that I'm going to bring to the table now, which was the Sunday's main panel and the rather exhausting, huge announcement from Kevin Feige of 11 separate projects in Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and essentially digital streaming universe, because not only have we got a few movies announced, but they've also announced the first couple of shows that are going to lead on the Disney streaming channel, which is coming later this year. So what we have is The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, Hawkeye, WandaVision, and What If, which are all going to be TV shows, and then movies of The Eternals, Black Widow, Thor Love and Thunder, Doctor Strange, and the Multiverse of Madness, and then Shang-Chi and The Legend of the Ten Rings. So what we're getting is a Black Captain America, our first Indian Muslim deaf superheroes. We're going to have our first female Thor. We're going to have a Blade is now returning. And of course the big news is that Scarlett Johansson is going to be playing all of these people. So that's good for her. Well done. I couldn't resist. It was too easy a dig, and I'm surprised they didn't make a joke of it at the Comic-Con as well. So out of those many, many titles, are there any in particular that sort of piqued your interest? Lee, let's come to you first.
For me, it's the Blade one, because I expected that to happen someday, but not now. And when that kind of the footage of him coming out onto the stage, putting on his cap, it's just one of those ones. It was like, you know, for all the billions that like Marvel have and how they announce things, like the way they sort of announced this panel with getting people out and wearing sort of branded caps, etc., and then, you know, Mahershala Ali puts on sort of a Blade one. It's just something like seems so kind of low key, kind of cheap, and sort of goes back to sort of maybe those early days of how they announced sort of Marvel projects. Instead of like, here's a teaser trailer or something like that, it's like, here's a guy and look at the branding on his cap, it's Blade. I thought that was just something kind of low-key and really quite charming and sort of a big corporate kind of event.
Yeah, it was like sort of like an NBA draft sort of thing where they bring out the number one pick and he reveals which sort of team he's going to play for. So, I mean, I just have to boast at this point that I did tweet back in February that if Alita Battle Angel did anything, it was to basically show us who should be cast as Blade in the MCU, and it was a picture of Mahershala Ali. So I called it back in February, but I completely forgot about it until someone randomly liked my tweet yesterday. So there we go. Kim, what was the most exciting thing for you to come out of the Marvel Phase 4 panel?
Well, there's kind of two actually. So Doctor Strange, I'm excited because one, Scarlet Witch is going to be in it, and she's like my favorite Avenger. And two, I read that apparently it's going to be like the first real horror film in like the MCU. Apparently, it's going to be really dark and scary. So I'm quite excited for that. I know obviously Blade's coming as well, and that's like horror-ish as well, but yeah, no, that'll be cool. And also Thor, I was so excited, the thought of having a girl Thor. That's just like amazing. I wasn't super keen on the first two Thor films, but I loved Thor Ragnarok, so the thought of it being the same as that, and then also having like Natalie Portman as Thor, I immediately changed my header image on my Twitter profile to her holding the hammer. I was done in like 10 minutes then, but I was so excited. So yeah, I'm really excited for both of those.
Yeah, no, I mean, Taika Waititi coming back to the Thor universe is great, and it's just the announcement of a female Thor being played by Oscar winner Natalie Portman, who's going to be alongside in a love triangle potentially with Valkyrie. It's just, I can hear, you know, the certain demographic of the Marvel fans exploding on the internet now that you can't have a female Thor. It's like, well, just read the comics, you can. It's like, well, no, you can't have this female Thor. And it's just like, yeah, no, it's just going to wind people up. And so for that, if nothing else, it's great. Lee, as a Taika Waititi fan, you must be happy by this news.
I'm over the moon. I love Taika Waititi. While we're throwing back to older episodes, I think like episode 40 odd or something like that was where I sort of came on and I talked about how Thor Ragnarok, while everyone hated the Thor movies or weren't that keen on them, that Thor Ragnarok was going to be one of the best Marvel movies ever produced and people were going to love it and everyone would fall for Taika Waititi's style. And much like your prediction, I also predicted that and it has gone better than I ever anticipated. So I am so excited to see him back in sort of a Marvel movie, and the trailer for his new film kind of dropped as well today. That's got me excited and I'm hoping it's going to come to the London Film Festival. So yeah, I'm really excited he's coming back, and it sounds like it's going to be a batshit crazy film as well, which is going to be awesome, like a female Thor. And it's even more shocking that Natalie Portman has such contempt for like Marvel movies and has gone on record about how much she didn't really necessarily enjoy working on the Thor movies, probably wouldn't do one again after sort of her terrible experience on Thor the Dark World. And then Taika Waititi comes back and she's like, yep, I'm coming back. That is the real surprise of the Comic-Con weekend. So well done, Taika. And Natalie Portman, who has starred in my favourite film of 2018 and 2017, I'm always happy to see more of her. So yeah, I should maybe change my header too.
I think we'll all change our headers because I mean, you just have to look at the continued appeal of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. People turn their noses up, they're like, oh, they're ruining cinema, even though it's now become the highest grossing film of all time with Avengers Endgame, but they're still attracting talent. I mean, in Black Widow, you've got Academy Award winner Rachel Weisz, you've got David Harbour, Florence Pugh has joined the cast there. Eternals, you've got like established stars like Angelina Jolie, but you've also got Richard Madden, who's sort of blown up now with the Bodyguard and that, and then also Kamal Nanjiani from the Big Six in there, and Don Seok, a man who was fantastic in Train to Busan, he's in that. So I mean, they just know how to cast these movies, and it's very exciting to see. And yeah, I mean, there was no real footage came out of the first. There was a bit of footage from Black Widow, but no, it's on lockdown and it never even made it even a blurry version onto the internet. So I guess we'll have to wait until maybe D23 for them to announce a bit more about that. But even though there was not real much information about the TV shows, it is enough for me knowing that The Mandalorian is coming as well to get the Disney streaming service. Will you guys be subscribing as well, or is it potentially one streaming service too many now?
I'll be honest, I am that fussed about their new Star Wars shows. I will watch them. I'm looking forward to their Marvel ones. I'm sure they'll be fine. But I'm kind of really mostly jacked for sort of that's going to have every single episode of The Simpsons ever there. And anytime I've got like Channel 4 on or Sky on, it's always like the newer, like season 19, season 20. I'm not interested in those Simpsons. I cannot wait to just watch all the old school Simpsons for like £5 a month. That is what I'm most excited for.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. I was going to say The Simpsons would be what swing it for me. I'm never too interested in like the Marvel TV. I feel like I don't need another TV series to watch, especially one that's going to be like 22 episodes long. So I'm probably more interested in the films. But yeah, potential. The Simpsons could swing it.
It's amazing that it's not the new stuff, it's the old stuff that people like. It's like that thing that some company bought the rights to screen Friends, which has been finished for like over 10-15 years, and people are still watching Friends, and people pay like $80 million for the rights to screen it for 4 years or something. It's just like, it's crazy. It's like, who needs new content? Just play the old stuff. Like Disney recycling all their animated films as live action in inverted commas, which you can't see me doing, but trust me, I'm doing live action in inverted commas. So that wraps up the Comic-Con side of it, but as I said, there's a lot of female talent involved in Phase 4 of the MCU, and as always, we move swiftly on to our regular feature, hashtag 52 Films by Women, where we each recommend a film directed by a female director. It can be a new release or a classic that you should revisit or experience for the first time. So, Lee, we'll come to you first. What have you selected for us this week?
Yeah, kind of another throwback. Sort of last year during our Edinburgh Film Festival coverage, we interviewed the cast and the crew of My Friend, the Polish Girl. And as these things often are with film festival releases, it takes a little bit of time for them to get out into the world. And last week it got its sort of UK release, and it got a prestigious sort of screening at the Prince Charles Cinema, the mecca of film fans in sort of the UK. And on this Friday, you can find it at the Glasgow Film Theatre, where it's going to have an introduction, sort of a post-film Q&A with its writer-directors. And it's definitely well worth checking out. It's sort of a fiction film told through a female documentarian lens as she manipulates sort of the story of an unemployed Polish actress living in London. It's a really good film, and if you like it, check out our previous episode, kind of 100 odd episodes or something ago, or 50 odd episodes, I'm not too sure, where we interview the cast and crew. Definitely well worth checking out, and it's a real great opportunity to support a really small British independent film, and make sure that films like that get the opportunity to be seen in cinemas here as well.
Okay, great. And Kim, what have you picked for us?
This time I've picked Jennifer's Body, which came out in 2009 and was directed by Karen Kusama. I hope I am saying her surname correctly. It's about these friends, Anita, which was played by Amanda Seyfried, and Jennifer, who's played by Megan Fox, and this band called Low Shoulder try and like sacrifice Jennifer to the devil as like a virgin sacrifice, but as she points out, she's not even a backdoor virgin anymore, so the sacrifice kind of backfires and turns her into a succubus, and it's basically her friend trying to defeat her. She just eats all these men around the high school, and it has an excellent Panic at the Disco song on the soundtrack, so I would highly recommend that you check it out for that reason.
Yeah, no, that's a film which I haven't seen in years, but remember, it did seem to get quite an unfair rap at the box office. So there seemed to be a bit of a Diablo Cody backlash at that point, but I remember it actually being really entertaining and quite subversive in its use of characters and stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely one I'm going to try and rewatch, I think, in the coming weeks, because I think it is on Netflix at the moment. And me, I've picked one which sprung to mind because I was down in London and I saw that there was a musical being made of this one, but for me it's one of my all-time favourite New York films, and it's Big, directed by Penny Marshall, and stars Tom Hanks as the big version of a young boy who wishes he was big on a Zoltar machine, and then discovers that being grown up isn't all that, and has to discover what he loved about being a kid in the first place. You know, it's a classic film set in, it's got so many great scenes, including, of course, the famous piano scene set in F.E.O. Schwartz, which sadly doesn't exist in its current form anymore. It's moved over to the Rockefeller Center because even the world's most famous toy shop these days apparently can't survive the sort of trading bust and everyone buying everything from Amazon these days. So if anything, it's a great film to watch for a more simpler time, although it's certainly a film which would not get made these days. Or certainly with a gender bend, considering that the grown version of a 13-year-old boy sleeps with a woman, and therefore it definitely wouldn't work these days, because I'm sure people would be very up in arms about that particular sequence. Has anyone got any views on Big and its potential trepidation and certain things these days?
I have never seen Big.
What?
Oh my god, you've never seen Big?
I mean, that is a bigger
Big.
crime than not seeing Moon, quite frankly, because Big has been out a lot longer. I mean, yeah, that's.
It's.
I can't believe this.
I was going to say
I have jumped up and down on one of those sort of piano instruments in Los Angeles, and I'm aware I've seen like one or two little scenes from it, but I've just never got around to it.
It's on Channel 4 like every 2.5 weeks, so you'll be sorted.
Is that like Channel 4's version of like Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz on ITV2?
Yeah, it's like Back to the Future on ITV2 as well. It's just on all the time. You'll be sorted.
Well, if I find a Zoltar machine, I'm wishing for Lee to sort it out and watch Big as soon as possible. So on that bombshell, I think that brings us to the end of another episode. So we're off to spend the next week in quarantine, just like the Apollo 11 missions, and then basically argue about the fact that Lee hasn't seen Big for a long time. But before then, just want to give a thanks to people who've left a review on iTunes at the moment. We had a lovely 5-star review recently that said, and it was thanks to I'm Off the Deep End, who said, love the show, the quality of the guests, the diversity of the topics, and the chat between Kim, Lee and Dallas is great. Always something new every week. So you can leave us a 5-star review or any star review, it's up to you, on iTunes, and if you do, we'll give you a mention on the show. So until next time, Kim, if people want to chat about movies, where can they find you on social media?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram. Those are probably the best places to get me. I am at WickedSister69.
Cool. And Lee, if people want to come onto Twitter and berate you for the fact that you haven't seen Big, where will they be able to do that?
I'll batter them on Twitter at Lee_Nostromo.
Okay, if you say a virtual battering, I look forward to it, because I'm going to be creating lots of bot accounts just to do that. And if they want to find my actual account, you can find me at Champ Celluloid. So on that note, I guess I was going to sing the entire song from Big, but it's too difficult to do. And of course, everyone wouldn't be able to join in because Lee would let the side down. So until next time, we'll catch you then. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.
Welcome to Nerd Party.